Yo, what's going on? Happy Wednesday. It's 11 o'clock Eastern, so we're live. Coffee with Creators. I pulled in a fan favorite. I am the fan. This is Ryan Arey. We're going to get into who this human being is in a second. But first, I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsor. Boom. Godox. You guys know Godox. I think they have one of the most extensive lighting lines out there, from very affordable to high-end professional. The MS60 line is making a lot of waves, being a modular little 60-watt system that you can change the back and the front of it. Whole thing. We did a whole cover of that on this channel, IBC coverage last year. So go check out Godox for a full line of stuff. There's something for everybody in there, especially if you need constant lights. Links down below. And Gotham Roasters. Thanks so much for the coffee. Cheers, kid.
Cheers.
Boom.
Cheers, Gotham Roasters.
Yeah. So Gotham Roasters is one block up from Adorama. This is 42 West 18th Street. They are on 19th Street. So if you kind of come here for a demo, a class, whatever, go over there, say what's up, get some coffee, come chill out, and, support the community, because this is owned by a filmmaker and photographer. So, we're big on supporting each other. And lastly, I just want to say a huge thanks to Tenba. You're going to be getting a free Tenba bag just for coming on here. So, what? Yeah, man. Tenba's dope, man. Tenba was started in 1977 by a photographer here in New York, and it's still going strong. Any pro out there knows Tenba. Check out links down below for their full lineup, but you're going to be getting like a $100 bag. It's awesome.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I thought I had to pay you.
No, oh, please. Oh, please.
All right. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, who is this guy? Who is Ryan Arey? So, in a galaxy far, far away, I came across this channel, and I kept on going back to it because everything I watch, I was getting more out of it because I was hearing insights from a guy who was picking up things I wouldn't have picked up, teaching me things about history I didn't even know about in the industry, talking about the camera movements, camera angles, actual production, not just nerd stuff, but like the way they did it, their choices as creators doing it. And so I stumbled onto ScreenCrush. And I think it was if you guys are fans of this, you guys know the Adorama XP channel. We did that on Twitch. Me and Josh talked about ScreenCrush all the time because all the Easter eggs from WandaVision came from this, right? And I was just like, this is my channel. And I honestly do think I get more out of everything I like watching because of your channel. Like, it heightens everything. It's like throwing seasoning onto everything my brain ingests.
Thank you. I don't know what else to say. You can't get a better intro than that. It is great to hear somebody else do the ad reads. I felt like, because on our channel, we're lucky, we do all right. We get some sponsors, and I always struggle for the transitions. I try to make them fun. I use my dog. I use puppets, all this other stuff. With it. Yeah, because I want it to be like, Stan Freberg, who did a lot of like Looney Tunes voices, love him and name him George, all that stuff. He was the first guy to make like funny commercials for the radio, and Jim Henson did it with his Muppets. So I always tried to do that, and then you're just here just flat out reading and saying how great this it is. Fantastic coffee, by the way.
Yeah.
And it was nice just to sit back and enjoy the show for a little bit. Thanks for having me, man.
No, thank you. I was like, let me hit this guy up. I have a feeling he's in New York, and I got that feeling because of certain little Easter eggs I was picking up over the years of watching ScreenCrush, and I was realizing, like, wait, they're local and they're on there. Wait, they're local, they're on there.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, he was at New York. I saw you at New York Comic Con. You flew right past me. I was like, I'm gonna leave him alone. He's probably like going crazy.
No. You could always bother me. It's always a thrill when somebody's like, hey, aren't you? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, but
I am him.
You look like you were hustling between panels or something. Like, you looked like you were on the move.
Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Isn't everybody always? What was it this year?
No.
Okay, so yeah, I probably was just kind of trying to see everything, This past year, I was there with my childhood best friend who'd never been to a Comic-Con before. So we were pumped that I'm from Ohio, so we finally got to get him to a Comic-Con. So I was like more laser focused, and I would have totally blown you off. Every other year, I would have loved to have talked to you. We should have said hi. Because we know people in common too. It's really cool.
That's what happens in a world where you have similar interests and similar careers and similar stuff. And the guy you came in, you say like, hey, we know the same guy. I'm like, I haven't heard from that guy in a decade.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what he's up to. He's pulling his red camera out and doing some...
Actually, he switched over. He sold his reds. I think he's on the Black Magics now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
I believe so. Yeah. I've never been... See, when you reached out, I thought, oh, what am I going to talk about? Because I'm not a great gear guy, right? I know the fundamentals of shooting, but if you put like a camera newer than 2014 in my hands, it just falls apart. Like it's, like an iPhone that is 2 years old. So it's a real thrill for me just to get to be around like all this really cool stuff you guys have set up in here.
You replied and you're like, I've been in your space. I went to a panel there.
Yeah,
I was like,
Kevin
what?
Allison from Risk. Yeah. Years ago. Like I was not Ryan from ScreenCrush then. I was just Ryan, fledgling comedian trying to make it in the big city. And now look at me on the big stage.
Well, so first of all, I think that's something to harp on because there's a lot of people that start channels that don't have camera presence or can deliver. And probably your background just added into that even harder. I find a lot of comedians end up just being hosts on things they're into.
Sure.
So I'm sure that was a plug and play thing, but man, I don't know how you guys do it. I'm not kidding you. A trailer will come out that's 1 minute and 13 seconds. My man has a 20-minute video 13 minutes later. Like, I'm like, how did you get that much out of it and actually produce that? There's times a show just came out and I'm looking at your video 10 minutes after I watched it and you look like you got bags under your eyes, your eyeballs are falling out of your skull.
Yeah.
I'm like, so when something comes out, or is it like a rush? Do you get pre-screening on some things or?
Well, that's a great question, Seth. So there's a few different answers to that. One, sometimes we are lucky enough to get screeners ahead of time. So then we'll take copious notes, write the script, write down time code so you can get the edit done kind of fast when the actual episode drops. But even then, so like with Star Wars, right? So Star Wars has this made up, all languages are made up. Star Wars has a made up language called Arabash that, you know, I can read it by now because I've been doing this for so long. But if it's blurry, I can't read it. Right. So there was like in this last episode of Andor, there was this Arabash on top of the hospital. I couldn't read it, but it's like named after one of my favorite characters from the Star Wars High Republic books. And I missed it in the damn Easter egg video. So then luckily all of you nice people out on the internet are always there to tell me when I miss something like that or when I get something wrong. Thank you for that. But then the trailers, see, we have a great team, right? You only see me most of the time, but like if a trailer drops, let's say it's Superman, right? So like I love Superman, favorite superhero, haven't necessarily read all the Superman comics. So if it's something we have to turn around super fast, me and the team will get on like a Google Meet call and we will watch it together, take notes, and I'll like verbally say, there's this. One person writes them down. So then with those, I don't even write a script. We have a bullet point of outlines, and then I'll improv. And you can tell when you watch our trailer breakdowns, they're sloppier on my end. So there's like a bullet list, and then they will divide it up by time code. So the way we're able to get those done fast is because we have one Google Doc. Everybody's highlighting in different colors, and they just bam, they get it out. Yeah.
Hive mind is the way to do it.
Not every video has to be go like that. But when they are, it's really hyperkinetic. And it's like working in a newsroom.
And you're also good at shouting out who found what. I will say that, like, you're like,
God,
that's awesome. And that builds community also, I think. But you also, I mean, you pull out random tweets, like someone that has like no following just saying, hey, Ryan, did you see this? And I'm like, that's cool. You're paying attention that close within this tiny window. I don't think people realize how much work goes into a YouTube channel. Like people, when you say YouTuber, people automatically get this like, kind of like influence. Like,
like in my bedroom on my blog and my bed's in the background. Yeah. Kind of like, that sort of thing. Yeah.
But the people you have on are credible. Like I love Heather Antos. She's the best. Opened my brain to a lot of Star Wars things I wouldn't think of. I saw her at Comic-Con. I was like, I know I'm being really awkward, but you're awesome. Bye.
Tommy, she loves that stuff. Yeah.
Tommy's hilarious.
Tommy's great.
Brianna McLarty, when she did House of the Dragon, awesome. Unbelievable. Shout out to her.
Yeah. She wrote all of our videos.
It was just really, really cool. I haven't seen someone come on there that I wasn't like, I did not need that.
Yeah, we're about to expand that a little bit. Me and Heather are going to do like an actual podcast, like because every time we do a talk back, I have to cut it off at like 25 minutes, in part because of speed. Because if we went 40, we'd have to cut it down, and we're always like the best stuff is after we stop. It's always packing up. So because
you got momentum going.
Yeah, I know. So we're going to start doing like an hour-long thing, and she's got all kinds of connections. So we're going to get people, Star Wars writers.
She's an editor, right?
She's an editor at IDW Comics.
Right.
And we're also going to get, comedians, voice actors, and eventually like work our way up to George Lucas. Who, by the way, that's my number one. And George Lucas and Lorne Michaels are probably the two people I'd like
Lorne Michaels. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's that way he can do it in person. It's poetry. It rhymes. He can say it like in person
over and over
again. Moses, you're in the chat. I know Moses is a fan. He went to your first live show ever.
You were the one. Thank you so much. We really, we sold more tickets to that show than any of the others.
Well, he says like it's one of the rare channels that ad reads don't feel like a chore to get through. I find that as well. Who does a really good ad read?
I work hard on that.
If you ever want to see really good ad reads,
I do.
Bob Wolf.
Wolf.
He's in Brooklyn. We had him on the show. He has a big gaming channel.
Okay.
But every ad is a skit within itself that you don't see coming till you realize you're seeing a skit.
See, that's great. That's what I always try to do.
It's awesome.
I don't always hit it, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. Like the whole concept of ScreenCrush is, right? Like that. Okay. Basically, when we started, it was just a video essay channel. ScreenCrush is a website. Matt Singer, great editor-in-chief of the site, would write videos for it occasionally. And then I started doing hosting on air. And so we originally just had a green screen, and we used Final Cut X the comments. We used Final Cut X, so it was just a stock background. And Loudwire, our sister channel, used red, so we used blue. And I was like, that looks too much like New Rockstars. We don't want to seem like we're copying New Rockstars. So then I came up with a video store idea. But
which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. So we were always trying to differentiate ourselves from other channels, right? And one of the concepts is like, originally I thought, oh, okay, so we have this set and we'll have like artists, like we'll have guests come in, you know, because there's music artists who would come in for the other brands. And then COVID happened. So there was no other artists. And then we got this adorable dog. And my wife had the idea, we'll make Doug your manager.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
I was like, now, and then it took me, like, if you're new to the channel, like at that time, it took me a second to realize that he's your manager, but then I just couldn't get enough of it. I thought it was like the funniest thing ever. And then you had him talk, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this is like.
At first, it was more of like an Andy Kaufman kind of bit.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, where we'd be like, so what do you think, Doug? If you agree with Doug, tell me in the comments below.
And it was like a 3 seconds of just dead air.
Yeah.
And that I honestly liked that a lot.
It's really funny. And then we tried out a robot voice, because sometimes you actually need the person to talk to get your point across. And then we set it on like, and it's funny because the voice that we ended up using is just the voice I do for Doug around the house. Okay. So, you know, when he's like, and he's the audience proxy. So if I feel like in the script, we've gone too far off topic, Doug is there to be like, hey, wait a minute. I thought you said this guy was Wonder Woman's best friend. Well, you know, and then I can just kind of go back on topic from there.
So how schizophrenic are you when you're done taping?
When my wife's not in town, right? When it's just me and the dog, it is schizophrenic. Like I am just having a full-on conversation with myself and Doug in the room, so I have somebody to talk to. So the whole conceit is like, it became, okay, so there's this guy in this video store. Yeah. It's the last video store in the world. It's at the end of time and space. We can't leave the store. It's like Beetlejuice with the worms and stuff outside. So then how do we have other people on? So we had this thing where Brianna's the ghost that haunts the corner of the store. Tommy is the guy who's always on break. Colton's trapped in the TV, but he doesn't know it, so please don't tell him. So everybody who's going to be a regular is just going to have that like little kind of fun catchphrasey thing to them. And we've only ever had one other human appear in a ScreenCrush video.
When was that?
I was the Star Wars recap. My wife just pops in for a second, asks a question, and leaves. Yeah, it's great. It's really funny.
I was so psyched that it was like a video store, and then you kind of leaned on the Blockbuster feel of it and all that whole thing. And
yeah, which is weird because I didn't have a Blockbuster in my hometown. It was a really small town.
Yeah, that's got to be ridiculously small.
It was. Remains small.
Where is this?
So Ohio, picture Cincinnati. Well, if there's a bright center to the universe, it's the town that it's furthest from. So I'm from a small town called Peebles, Ohio. And it's about an hour east of Cincinnati or 2 hours from Columbus. It's an hour from everywhere.
But you went from, so you're also from the industry. Like you worked at Troma, right? Did I pick that up?
A little bit.
Okay.
So I did what everybody's done. I had an internship at Troma.
Oh, because you brought that up a few times. I'm like, what did he do at Troma? You know, because I worked.
When did I bring that up?
A few times.
On the channel?
You talk about a poster that was always by your desk.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay, so there's a whole
that's
thing.
That's weird. Thanks, man.
That is Troma. No, okay, so when I moved here, right, I moved here to do comedy and basically anything I could to not be in my hometown. So I saw a Troma internship live through my teeth. I love Troma. I knew what Troma was, but I never actually watched a Troma movie.
Toxic Avenger,
of course,
High, all that stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, now I do. So what they had me do is edit their How to Direct a Movie series where Lloyd Kaufman, who's a genius, would go around to these different places. So I did that, and I was editing next to a poster from a movie called The First Turn On, which it turns out was filmed at the summer camp where I ran the video department called French Woods. And that is that's how I learned how to edit. I didn't learn how to edit really in school. I learned, like on 2 VCRs, but I learned nonlinear editing running the film department at a summer camp that made like 200 films a year with the kids. We filmed over 300 performances and edited them. So like mostly everything I know is based around teaching kids the fundamentals of storytelling through short films and also editing literally hundreds of multi-camera performances on Final Cut 7. Yeah. Oh no, I did circus shows with 10, 12 cameras on them, like rock shows, musical theater. It was a huge camp. I mean, it's a great place to like learn if you're willing to do it. So a lot of the gear that we had, I specifically was like, we're going to show the kids how to make this at home. So like I made our own, I made fig rigs, I made a crane, just out of like, you can download the plans off the internet, nothing that would hold up to like what you can actually get at Adorama. But if you're a 10-year-old and you just want to learn how to make stuff, it worked. Yeah.
If you're not a 10-year-old building your own jib, are you even a 10-year-old?
Exactly.
I don't know what to tell you. No, I think that's one of the reasons your channel did so well. Personally, there's a lot of nerd channels, but they're just like fans. I think when you want to cut above that, and because there's only so much bandwidth you have for someone to watch a breakdown video of the same episode of something, you got maybe like 2, maybe 3 videos on the same episode that you'll get someone to watch. But the ones that break over are the ones that actually have some actual insight from the actual industry itself, or are pulling out things that aren't just because they're a fan of it, but because they're actually within it somehow. And I think that comes through. I forgot which one it was, but you were like, see this angle moving into a
Andor.
It wasn't, no, it wasn't Andor.
No, oh, was it? Okay, sorry.
No, this was a long time ago.
All right, never mind then. I lied.
No,
I did on Andor episode 10. I did break down like a lot of camera movements, but keep going on.
No, but I forgot which one when you said, see how the handoff here went from like stable, now they're handheld to show you how erratic this character's moves. Like, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like that kind of stuff is not in the other stuff that's out there. And I think that's really a huge part for guys. Like, I don't know about you, because a lot of you guys film in there. I know, Moses, you're a video guy. That made it all the difference for me. Like, because look, I tried to get the heavy spoiler guys in here initially, and I got to settle for you, but no, I'm just kidding. That's a good show.
He's hard to get. He lives in Newcastle, England. So if you could get him, that'd be.
I'm your host, Paul.
Yeah.
No, but he goes into a lot of the book stuff, which I probably will never get to. I'll never read the books.
Oh yeah, well he's a huge comic book fan. Paul is, and so am I. But like Paul loves Batman more than I ever will. Like he's super into Batman.
Well, I'm not a Superman guy, so I totally get.
And I get that too. Like that's the cool thing about like Star Wars or comic book stuff. It's a menu. It's a restaurant. You can order whatever you want off the menu. Right. Even somebody who likes Man of Steel, I don't agree with you, but like. You like it, you like it.
What's the greatest Superman film to date?
78.
78.
The original, yeah. I mean, it's one of those, like, it's like saying your favorite band's the Beatles, because you look at like a lot of modern music or a lot of modern superhero movies, it's all based off of that template. I see somebody says, Final Cut 7, good times. I miss it. I miss it every day. I miss that program. It couldn't render, but if they would have kept going and updating it to the level Premiere is now, I would like one more day with Final Cut 7.
I'm all over DaVinci, man.
That's what everybody says now.
DaVinci.
It used to just be for color, and now it's like it's basically free too, right?
So there's a free version if you need like higher bitrate 4K exports or some other, or a bunch of features like voice isolation, whatever. But yeah, if you want to just try it out and get a really good cut out, you can. You can just get Blackmagic's DaVinci Resolve. I think they're up to 19. There is an update every 5 seconds.
Nice.
So every time I open up, I'm like, oh. But then you're like, oh, they gave me more toys and more things. And
yeah, everybody, especially if you're not worried about like cross-platform, working with like After Effects and Photoshop, why not get in there? But we're on X because Final Cut X, because it's what everybody's been trained on. It's what the interns know, and to switch over a system,
whatever works.
It's difficult, because then you really got to halt production or post-production in this case.
Kind of weird seeing it without the Blockbuster blue shirt. Yeah, it took me a second when he said, "Hey," I was like,
I almost wore it. I came like this close. Yeah.
I wanted the guy behind the thing, not the thing I'm always ingesting. Right. And that's why I bought the shirt too. I'm like, look, I
do appreciate that.
I believe, look, I'm one of you guys, right? You got to support the creators you're constantly engaging with. If I've watched 40 hours of your content, that's a lot. That's probably like 300 hours of your time. I can buy a shirt. And if it gets you another subscriber, great.
This isn't a plug for the merch store, although I guess it could be. So ScreenCrushMerch.com, if you really are supporting our channel when you buy one. We do have a lot of fun making those shirts, like designing those.
You could tell you guys do, because they're always like kitschy. I do want a box label ScreenCrush shirt, like not just something that's based on a show that's happening right now, like just box label the ScreenCrush shirt.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like a Blockbuster shirt or something.
We did one of those. At first, nobody bought them. It was like, we have a blue polo that had just said ScreenCrush right there. So we'll start them back for you.
I think you have to build a brand for people to want the brand, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, and everybody's always like, oh, what if we do Doug's Crypto? And I'm like, yes, but like that only works if you love ScreenCrush. Otherwise, just a random dog dressed as crypto, And
there's already a dog coin out there.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. We did some really good ones for Andor. I was really proud of some of I have friends everywhere shirts.
Colton Ogburn's in our chat. What's going on,
man? What's up, Colton?
I really enjoy your analysis breakdowns, man. Thank you so much. When the ScreenCrush pops up, I'm rolling the dice on who's going to be host. When I see the blue screen, I'm like, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah. Colton did a great job on our Severance videos. He wrote those. Yeah. I would send him like random stuff that I saw, but like otherwise all Colton all the time, baby.
Severance was one of these things that, if you're someone that a filmmaker, any type of visuals, photographer, whatever, like you pick up these things and you hope someone else has something to say about it. Colton does that. And I'm like, it really goes over really well, but it's also, just so you know, Colton, like your videos, if someone isn't understanding Severance, telling me they're not into it, I throw them one of your videos and then they start looking at it differently. You know, is there like anything that people ask you, like, are you talking about getting into gaming or like other aspects or like
gaming we've touched on where it relates to stuff like Star Wars.
Yeah.
We do some Marvel Rival stuff on socials. What we always get are, oh, how come you're not covering Foundation? Or how come you're not covering like insert great show here?
Yeah.
And like, okay, for instance, Star Trek, right? Like I love Star Trek. I would love to cover Strange New Worlds, but it's hard because the whole staff hasn't seen Star Trek because they're all under 30. So to get them doing it, I'd have to fill in like all the time code or do the editing myself, and it's just more difficult. Right?
I picture your BTS meetings of like you being kind of like a nerd health class, and you're like pointing at things on a board to explain to these young kids how
but then they do it for me with anime. Like there's a million things they know about that I don't, where I'm a sponge when it comes to stuff, right?
Yeah.
Even like with Andor. And that's the thing too, like you mentioned earlier talking about like the camera angles and stuff. So there's every channel I've ever watched made me better at my job. For a little bit, I worked over at The Take, which was called Screen Prison back then. They did a video about Moonlight. It's one of the best videos I've ever seen because they talked about like the difference between when little is running and when Mahershala Ali's character, the camera's always panning and smooth, and you just kind of clock that away. And watching these videos makes you a better filmmaker and makes you a better observer. And like heavy spoilers, started to talk about symbolism and themes in one of his boys' videos. And I've always been great at symbolism and themes. I just never thought you could do them in videos. So then you add that into the mix, or you watch New Rock Stars and they talk about aspect ratios and you go, okay, I'll start paying attention to aspect ratios. And then you add that in with like 30 years of comic book reading knowledge that I have. 40 years of comic book reading knowledge that I have. It's great because it is like when all these different people are part of a really small community, we watch each other. Think Story made amazing videos about House of the Dragon season 1. Alt Shift X. So there's all these great channels out there who you watch and you hate yourself afterwards.
Yeah.
And you want to be as good as them,
Yeah. That's what this space was built on, like peer-to-peer, helping each other, community tying together. And look, I have to be here for every demo. I pick up things for everybody's demo that I would put into my own classes, and that's what you guys get from me. So I'm an amalgamation of things. But have you ever seen someone else's video and you're like, you're totally wrong, and you want to kind of jump in there?
Yeah. So there was the best Twin Peaks breakdown on the internet that I've ever seen was this 4-hour breakdown by a channel called oh shoot, what is it called? I think it's called Future Imperfect. No, it's not Future Imperfect. Oh, it's embarrassing. I can't remember. I reached out to the guy and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. But then they did a video about Man of Steel and like why it's okay for Superman to kill. And Man of Steel comments. And I just fundamentally disagree with the idea that Superman should kill. And then in the video, they brushed off like, oh, is it the slippery slope argument? And I was like, yes, it is the slippery slope argument because there's a very thin line between Homelander and Superman. And I almost commented on it. I was like, shit, and no, pull back. I didn't even engage on that level because if I really wanted to, I would just email the guy and say, do you want to come on the channel? But we weren't that big then. That's one instance where I was like, no, you're wrong, where I had to hold back.
Well, I think you have to ask yourself, well, what exactly is a reboot? Are we rewriting? What level of mythos are we rewriting here? Right.
Yeah. Well, there's a reboot, there's a remake, and there's an adaptation. Like we've got a video coming out Friday or tomorrow, I can't remember which day, about Disney, right? So a remake is when you just redo, it's like Vince Vaughn's Psycho that he did with Gus Van Sant. It's just a remake, right?
Which was awkward in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not a good movie. Yeah. Like, why are you doing that? Just literally re-release Psycho if you're going to do that again. Whereas an adaptation is when you take it to a different medium. Yeah. So, most of the time, the Disney movies, their live action versions, are problematic because they're not really changing or adding anything. They're just kind of redoing the same story in live action when it was built for animation. Exactly. So when it comes to Superman, you can totally do a Superman story where Superman kills, right? But then it's really no longer Superman. There are comics, and everybody's always like, well, what about this comic where Superman kills? I'll give you a great example. There's one where Superman sentences General Zod and people to death because they destroyed an alternate Earth with like billions of people on it. So according to Kryptonian law, he gives them kryptonite, they die. He feels so guilty afterwards. He goes into space. He exiles himself. He grows a beard. He fights in gladiator competitions. Like all this stuff happens that leads him back to realizing he really had no other choice. Man of Steel had him making out with Lois Lane a few seconds after. He never, and then in the next movie, he's just killing people again. And then it's a different story. That's just a different character from the character that's evolved over the years. And that's fine. You can tell that story. But calling him Superman and expecting me to accept him as Superman, I'm never going to be able to do.
No, it's fair. And I think that's one of the things that the James Gunn trailers are hitting is that feels like a Superman. Does that make sense? Like, because look, I'm a big Venom guy. I have not seen a Venom guy's Venom yet. No. Anywhere.
Well, and Venom's an interesting one too, because there's Venom as he originally appeared in the comics, but then there's Venom as he's like evolved over the years to being more of this, like, not even an anti-hero. He's just like a hero. Like Eddie Brock has become an Avenger.
Well, you could argue there's 8 million versions. I think Venom is the most adaptation to character in history, personally. I think you've seen, like, first of all,
anybody can wear the suit.
Right.
Yeah.
It literally goes under the people. You have anti-Venom. You got all. I can go down this whole thing, but it's killing me that Sonyverse is just like ripping my rib cage open every time because I have to buy this ticket or they're not going to do the reboot.
Oh,
like,
it's awful.
It's killing me, man.
I'm telling you, when everybody went out and saw that first Venom movie, I was like, y'all are making a big mistake, man, because this is only going to embolden them to make more crap. And it did. But you got to admit, man, Madam Web was just a treat.
You can't let this go.
No, but I'm serious. How often do you get to see something that is just that bad made by professionals who were genuinely trying to make a dollar? Like, and there's people there with real credits who just were on this steaming train of shit and they had no way to turn it around. I think you can learn more from Madam Web than you can from Citizen Kane, because you'll watch Citizen Kane and unless you're a film person, you're not going to know, like, oh yeah, that's deep and shallow focus. There's all this really, like, you're not going to know that stuff. You're not going to know they dug a hole in the ground to get this bird's because the cameras were so big. But when you watch Madam Web, you're like, ooh, something's wrong about that ADR. That's really bad sound. That movie, man, I actually enjoyed that movie more than Craven because Craven could have been good.
I know it couldn't have. I'm sorry. It could not have. And
the Craven, the character. The film. Doing a Craven movie was always a bad idea.
Craven, the storyline that happened in the comics was so heavy. Like, it was.
You talking about when he kills Spider-Man? And see? They don't get to do it now because they've already burned it.
Bro.
And the worst thing about all these adaptations sometimes is, like, you get one chance to do the adaptation first. And then you look at Dark Phoenix. They did it twice. It's turd both times. Although X-Men, the animated series, did it first and did it great. I don't know. So I could, believe me, just run down this Marvel adaptation hole all day. And I've just realized I've been ranting about it. And we're probably not even rolling anymore, right? Like, I'll be in the studio by myself being like, no, guys, see, the problem with Ghostbusters Afterlife is like...
Everything?
Yeah.
Well, Vanessa Joy's in the chat. I know she's a big Phoenix fan, and I know they have done no justice to that character in 30, 40 years, maybe.
Nah.
Look, I draw the line when they start disrespecting the audience to be idiots, and they have to overly narrate, overly tell you what it is, drill it into your head, because they think you're checking your phone every 5 seconds and you're not paying attention. So let's say this name 67 times in a 2-minute span. Like,
it's the Netflix method, right?
It kills me. I can't watch this. I'll throw them on. Those are my airplane movies. Those are the ones I'm like, I'll throw it on a flight.
The original X-Men films?
No, not the original. First of all,
the newer X-Men films.
Everything, okay? Madam Web, Morbius, Craven, all the stuff that I know I'm not going to go buy a ticket for, I throw it on when I'm on an airplane.
Oh, okay. I thought you were choosing Morbius, like, on a plane because you're looking forward to watching it.
No.
Right.
I don't want to look at a garbage screen and
I don't know.
horrible audio.
I think planes are great because for movies, because there's movies I'd never got a chance to see for whatever reason.
That's what that is.
And then I'm a captive audience. So, like, I watched All the President's Men for the first time on an airplane.
If it's not great, visually stunning to me, I'm in, right?
Right.
But, like, then there's also ones that I don't care falling asleep to, like Devil Wears Prada.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Tombstone, my boys.
Hey,
I mean,
you want to talk about Tombstone? That is one of it's like top 5 for me.
Okay.
I don't know if that was a high five or what we're doing, but, like, I will high five Tombstone any day of the week.
So, when I had a darkroom in my parents' house, I had a TV that I put a heavy red piece of glass in front of, and I would listen to it while I was printing because I could see every frame if I just heard the audio.
Yep.
So, like, that was one of my movies. That, Goodfellas, everything Scorsese. I'm a New York. I got it.
There you go. Yeah.
But there's these movies that, like, really weave into you and actually change the way you approach things, the way you think things, the way you see things. And for my career, where I have to shoot and create images, it all creeped in. So when I get a bad movie and I start seeing, like, me taking things from that by accident, it's almost offensive to me. Like,
I bet, yeah.
it's subconsciously going to get you.
So what's your bad movie that's super offensive to you on a technical level?
Oh my gosh.
Or do you just prefer to erase them, like erase the hard drive after you see it?
I think on a technical level, I sometimes don't even make it through it. I can't even like watch it. I'm just like, why is this so sloppy? I got to tell you, a lot of people loved Moon Knight. There was a lot of technique filming in there that I felt was either rushed or like, I don't know what it was, but it just felt like under par for me, like maybe low budget. And you can make low budget look amazing. Did you ever see that movie Monsters?
Monsters? No, I don't think so.
There was giant monsters that were coming through and wrecking an area, and people couldn't get through on this island.
Cool.
They filmed that after a hurricane to save money,
Oh,
so that it
nice.
could. Yeah, exactly.
I like we're like, oh yeah, the hurricane. Thank goodness that hurricane came through so we could get that movie.
Dude, is there any characters you think? First of all, are there any indie characters that don't have a lot of love out there that you think you could
Indie characters?
Yeah, like someone that's just not mainstream. I feel like characters get these resurgence from who I call civilians, right?
Sure.
They're they never heard of this guy, but now he's their favorite, and you see him all over the place. And look, when Comic-Con hits, if someone's dressed like Leto Joker, I'm like, you don't know anything. So it's
Okay.
So is there like any character you think that could use a push that we don't know about? Not even from Marvel, DC, like Image, whatever.
Oh wow. Okay. Now you're going to the deep magic.
I think like Darkness would be a cool one personally. I think
Okay.
something like that.
You know, a series that I got super duper into was Alan Moore got his own like line of comics called America's Best Comics for a little bit. They were under Wildstorm, and then Wildstorm like sold out to DC, and so he kind of like divested himself. But there was a comic called Tom Strong that was very much like this. Kind of almost like a Doc Samson type character in an Art Deco modern day New York City. That was a great story. But even better than that was one called Top 10, which was about basically in all these different cities, they got tired of all their super people. So they put them all in one city. So this one city called Neapolis has like gods and aliens, and every panel's filled with Easter eggs. And Top 10 is about a police precinct, the 10th police precinct, and them trying to stop these super crimes and stuff like that, so that was really fun, and the kind of thing where maybe we'll see it in animation, but probably not, because Alan Moore doesn't like his stuff adapted.
Does that guy like anything?
No. Snakes. He worships a snake in a jar, and I'm not even making that up. I read that in Wizard magazine 20 years ago. Oh, R.I.P. Alan Moore's snake. I'm sure it's dead by now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's too bad. I hope he handled the death of his god well.
You ever read a series 100 Bullets?
No, but I need to. I've heard good. Oh, you know what else is a great one? An indie one, Transmetropolitan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, it's Hunter S. Thompson in a sci-fi city in the future, and it's fantastic.
I'm not a fan of the character designs in that one, but it's a good story.
Oh, great
like,
read.
good.
Well, Warren Ellis, yeah.
Or anything Garth Ennis I'm really into usually.
I love Garth Ennis.
Yeah.
Although I like Garth Ennis Preacher better than I like Garth Ennis The Boys. The Boys is one of the few adaptations I think is better than the comic book.
Doesn't it seem like a different thing to you? It doesn't feel the same to me.
It feels like a Garth Ennis book.
Yeah, but the series doesn't feel like the books I read to me.
Not
It's
at all.
just a weird like.
Well, it's totally different.
Yeah.
Like the Boys series is a commentary on movies and pop culture and politics. The comic is a commentary on comic books.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. There's some great stuff in it, but it's not the same thing.
But even the way like each panel was drawn, like what angle like everything just felt like it wasn't the same like vibe for some reason. Like it wasn't, to me, it was like two different things. I could read the book and watch that and still have two completely different things in my brain about it.
And I'm easy on adaptations, right? If I see an adaptation and they're not 100% loyal, I'm like, great, you shouldn't be. Oh, I'll tell you another comic that would be great. There's
we've got some people offended by movies.
Oh, let's go.
Go for it.
No. I want to hear these
Well,
comments.
Sal is one of our producers. He's like, the newest Crow is exactly that, Seth. A wrong movie, Inside Out. Yeah, I can't even support that in any way. I can't.
I didn't see the new Crow.
I can't just put out the original again. Just put it out again. Let a younger generation experience the Crow.
But I kind of think that the Crow is one of those stories that could be reinterpreted, but reinterpret it though. Like don't just. Yeah, it's the difference between like Predator and the movie Prey.
Okay.
Right. So take that concept, give us a different setting, mix it up a little bit, and give us something different.
Okay. I would like a prequel. I'd like to see more of like a rise to the city turning into what it is before the Crow even becomes introduced.
That'd be fun.
That'd be a cool movie.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But I think The Crow has such a hard line of being a moment in time with Bruce Lee's kid.
Yeah.
That you can't like just leave it. Just leave it. Or come up with something else. But I don't know. Wow, you guys are going off on this. I'm a horrible nerd, but a great movie watcher. I take movies for entertainment value. I'm able to put the lore and stories behind me for the movie. I just watch it. That's what they want. They just want you to buy the ticket and shut up. That's kind of
and sometimes I can do that too. Like I'm not always going to be analyzing everything. There's some stuff that like I can't turn my head off on, but then sometimes you just want to take a gummy and not pay attention. Like Severance, I was so grateful that Colton covered Severance so I could just watch it.
Right.
And you can't, like with Severance, you can't turn your brain all the way off, but you are able to just kind of enjoy it. You know, like sometimes you don't want to make a video about something, so you just want to kind of absorb it. But there's other times where I'm like Ahsoka was such a bad show, it was hard for me to turn that part of my brain off.
There was, I gotta tell you, as much as people gave that show grief, there was so many people like behind it as well. Like I had people that were like, you just don't understand. I'm like, oh,
sure,
okay, great.
And I'm
glad you
really happy they liked it.
I'm glad you liked it.
But it's one of those things where like once you see something truly great like Andor, it makes everything else just unfairly maybe pale in comparison.
Well, you have to find what resonates for you, but then I just don't like the parts where we have to defend what resonates for us, like that kind of like toxic little bit that happens in there. But I also think that what you do is kind of similar to what we do as far as an ecosystem goes. So on this channel, new fun toy comes out, new gear comes out. We've got to do a video on it to explain and translate what it is and show you guys a thing about it. And that's to get you guys revved up, and it goes back to the industry. I think that's what you do. When something comes out, a trailer, they're hoping you guys rip it apart to keep the trailer more than just a minute and a half.
Sure.
That it's constantly being cycled in the news media. But man, they got to feel it when you guys go, all right, but Madam Web is so bad.
Right.
Like that's got to hit them pretty bad.
Madam Web was so bad, we put out an April Fool's video talking about how great it was.
That was really funny.
We couldn't leave it alone. We had to get in there and do that again.
That was fun.
Oh man. But the other half of that is like when you get something, sometimes things are mid. Like I think The Acolyte had some great stuff in it, but overall the story didn't necessarily make linear sense and didn't keep me engaged with the protagonist, but it had great things in it. Ahsoka I thought would be a great animated show. But Andor is one of these things you look at and you go, $645 million got you 24 of the best hours of Star Wars you're ever going to see.
I got to watch this. Season 1 I was all about.
Yeah. You haven't watched season 2 yet?
So
I'm jealous.
I watched one episode of it and I think I just wasn't plugged in because I'm like, wait, I'm missing out the story. Yeah, that's the problem. It's like when I'm hectic, I miss out on it. That's why I kind of lean on you. Like you're like my cliff notes after I watch them. Like I didn't have time to really focus on. Oh, that was cool. Got it. But I'm not experiencing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So I got to sit and watch Andor. Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars
then you'll
films.
love the ending of this. Yeah.
The best Darth Vader scene of all time is in Rogue One.
It is, but you know my big problem with Rogue One, which I've never been like a big Rogue One's the best thing, film. I always thought Darth Vader should have been in that one scene. I think showing him earlier in the movie weakens him later on. So seeing him in the back to tank, don't choke on your ambitions. It's just like that's a shot for the trailer. Whereas if the first time and only time you see him is when that red lightsaber ignites, that would have made more sense to me.
Totally fair. I just thought it was such a unique feel of a Star Wars film when you know the fate. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They did a great job of taking a short time span and making you care about these characters. And then when their time is up, their time is up. I mean, the blind guy, the robot. You cared about a robot in that film. You got to give it to
That's Alan Tudyk, man. Alan Tudyk could
when he
voice
goes,
anything and you'd care about it.
When Admiral goes, "Force be with you," and just says goodbye to him, I'm like, oh, take my soul.
I can't wait for you to watch Andor season 2, man. Like like Rogue One picks up a few minutes after. Like it really sets it up well.
Andor season 2 just seems like Adult Swim to me. Like I have to remember names. I have to pay attention to things.
They got a little recap in the beginning. Just, you do have to engage with it.
Like, but Andor 1 was such a good prison break film, like a series.
And a heist and all this other stuff too. And the second season, and that's the great thing about Tony Gilroy and his team, is they don't, I think there's two different kinds of Star Wars stories, right? There's stuff like Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett, which are Star Wars stories about Star Wars. And the sequel trilogy was the same thing. But on the other side, you have people like John Watts and Tony Gilroy who are coming in and they're saying, and Jon Favreau, we want to make stories that are stories first and Star Wars stories second. So with Tony Gilroy, he didn't set out to tell a Star Wars story. He not even a big Star Wars, he likes Star Wars, he's not a huge Star Wars fan. He wanted to tell a story about revolution. So he drew from historical influences and historical movies like the Battle of Algiers and Joseph Stalin and all these different things that go into that. And that's what Star Wars is. It's familiar and new. Whereas something like Ahsoka is just familiar if you've seen Rebels. And if you haven't seen that show, you're completely lost.
Do you feel we're at a place? Also, let me just say with Andor season 1, my one gripe, and I don't know if you agree with it, I'm curious. The prison should have had other races in it, and they should have given them tasks based on their race. Like if they're a giant hulking thing, they carry things.
And maybe they were in the other prisons, because I think with those prisons, it was based on uniformity. Like if you're sleeping in the cot, I never thought about this before. I'm literally making this up as I go. If you're sleeping on those cots, you can't, or eating the food, maybe different species eat different food. You know what I mean? So they needed all the humans in this one prison, and then maybe the next prison is Wookiees or Ithorians.
Interesting.
But then again, if it's Wookiees, you're not going to want the Wookiees to be, that entire prison was probably just making the attachment for the solar panels, whereas the Wookiees were doing other stuff because of their natural strength, like you said.
God, you're such a nerd.
I know.
God
I know.
damn.
And this goes back. This is like the deep magic, man. This goes back to like expanded universe stuff and how Wookiees did build the first Death Star in the old like Legends continuity and stuff like that. And Grand Moff Tarkin supervised it because Krennic didn't exist back then. And
I think where I got that point was after a while I forgot I was watching Star Wars. Like you're just watching like a space prison.
Yeah,
like
that's what they wanted.
Yeah, I get it. It just for a second I was like, man, if I could just seen like something with like some long arms that had to do this one task that needed long arms or whatever. But,
you're not wrong, but again, you do have to think like, God, they spent so much money on that already. And the practical sets, like in season 2, they built Gorman, which is like this enormous plaza. They used the entire soundstage where they had like Maz Kanata's castle ruins and all this other stuff had been shot there at Pinewood. And it was like, I forget how many square feet, but just like they built it.
Yeah.
It was like in Return of the King, how they built Gondor,
Oh.
And it was such an elaborate set. Peter Jackson didn't realize there was a rat catcher because somebody just wrote rat catcher on a plan and then they built it in the stall.
You can't be practical. Like
never.
Every time I see an LED dome, like they're filming one of those domes, it's like they're only going to walk around in a circle or they're only going to fight in this corridor. And it's like, I totally catch it and it just breaks me. Cause like we actually see all that stuff in person when we go to those trade shows, NAB, the broadcasting show. You guys have seen our coverage of that. Now that I see it in person, that's all I'm looking at those shows sometimes.
Yeah.
It sucks, man.
The first season of The Mandalorian completely fooled me. Like I would have never known. But then whenever they do have to move more, it's kind of like in the prequels, like Revenge of the Sith. Anakin runs, he kind of trots to get to where Palpatine is because the set's only this big.
Yep.
But in the J.J. Abrams movies, they built the set. So like the camera can pan. It can
scale.
move. Same thing on Star Trek. Yeah. Like he built a sense of scale within it. But again, part of that's technology. It's how things move along. But Obi-Wan, there's a part in episode 4 or 5 where they're running through this cavern and they're never running more than a few feet before they have to stop. And then it's just, it feels small and it should feel big.
They have to go into a project committing to the legacy of it. So look at something like Titanic. They were filming in a tank, a gigantic tank the entire way. Pirates of the Caribbean, they're literally out at sea filming. Waterworld. Literally filming out at sea, and the stories that happened on those boats and how they had to wear UV contacts just so they didn't go blind after like 3 days in the sun. That's crazy. And I think the audience is getting fatigue of less, and that's what makes it disposable is when it's overly CG. Like when Romulus came out, I was so hyped. I'm like, whoa, they made a big deal about the puppetry. They made a big deal about the animatronics.
And you can tell.
Give it to me. All of it. Yeah. Expendables came out. And Stallone goes, yeah, all our blood is CG because if we wanted to do a retake, I'd have to like hose down the entire setup. So now when I watch that film, all I see is cartoon blood flying out of lens and never landing anywhere.
You know who does a lot of CG you would never think would is David Fincher. But he does it in really subtle ways, like adding cars in a car chase, things like that. Yeah, like I wish I remember the channel did a video essay on it. That
it's like generative AI, basically.
Well, no, pre that. But yeah, there are filmmakers who use it really well. And I don't think that, I'm not like going necessarily on the Chris Nolan side that's like, never use CGI at all. It's a tool. For instance, in Andor season 2, there's a conference they're at where they're looking out this window, and the window is a painted backdrop, right? But they use CG to amplify some elements, to add in some birds or whatever, and wind and grit that you just couldn't do on set because there's too many variables you introduce. There's Disney live action remakes. Instead of having CG candelabras, do Lumiere as a puppet, like actually give us that tactile thing that's an adaptation rather than just a CGI recreation.
I think people respond to stuff. I mean, that's why things like, oh my gosh, that's why things like Night for Christmas and all these like really tactile, and there's an art form to the animation of things. And you know that there actually was a Venom animatronic that was made for, and they never used it.
I didn't know that.
It's sitting in a warehouse.
It probably looked like shit.
If you get Spider-Man 3 on DVD in the special features, whatever, there's a gallery. There's one picture.
No
of it.
way.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it broke my heart when I found out that this was a thing. But it would have cost.
Did it actually look cool though? I mean,
I can't remember.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it was like
a lot of things about Spider-Man 3 broke my heart.
I mean, Topher Grace got cast. And I was like, I'm out. I was like, but I got a surprise.
I like him so much though.
No,
like,
not as Eddie Brock.
Maybe not as Eddie Brock, but like he was a different version of Eddie Brock. But like Sam Raimi was being forced to include Venom in the movie anyways. Like he never wanted him in there.
Yeah. I mean, look, when they redid it, I was like, if you watch the trailers from the new Venom, the first Venom, they kept on refining him as the trailers went along. So you're kind of like hoping that like maybe now when I see a trailer, I'm like, maybe it's just not finished. You know, like that's like my thing on CG. Like maybe they're just getting to it
and
or
then
something.
Sometimes it is. When Colton saw the first cut of The Flash at CinemaCon, he just thought the effects weren't done.
Oh gosh.
And they were very much done.
What, you don't like babies flying everywhere?
Oh, God, it's the worst scene. I'm not a Flash hater. I think the movie's fine, but like that scene in particular, like the whole thing when they freeze time and they go into the thing, I'm like, okay, cool. You want it to look like the plastic Duracell family from the 90s commercials? That's great because that's your aesthetic choice you're making. But the babies, they should have used real babies, is what I'm saying.
That's the
They
quote.
should have used, they should have used real babies.
Oh
I
my
think.
gosh. This is why I think you have a real more of an open palette with some IPs that aren't massive and like people aren't familiar with. You can actually introduce them to a style that people aren't married to. People get really emotional about like, no, that's not my version of blah.
Right.
But you could have something that like, so I'm a huge fan of Scud. I don't know if you ever read that comic.
No,
book.
I have not.
Rob Schrab.
Yeah, I've heard of Rob Trapp. Don't know him yet.
Yeah, it's awesome and it's finished. It's one book that's completely finished. The only thing I've seen come out of that was a Sega CD game. Like, make something out of this. Do something with. There's so many of these books that are like from decades ago that no one's touching.
But people think that it's got to be all like Marvel, Star Wars, DC.
Because they're making a bet that the
Right.
investors get their money back.
I'll tell you this. I worked this out a while ago. I'll tell you the trick to making a new franchise, to inventing something from scratch, right?
Okay.
And this is what I've noticed: The Matrix, Star Wars, to a certain extent, Star Trek. They all did this. And it's so simple. You take something, two things people know that don't belong together. You put them together, and then you of course add in compelling protagonist, story we can relate to, a story that we feel connected to in some way, right? Star Wars, New Hope, perfect example. It's space and it's Western and it's mixed together. And then you have Luke Skywalker looking at the sunset. And in that moment, we're not being told the story of Luke Skywalker. We are part of the story of Luke Skywalker, right? We are not being entertained by him. We are part of his story. The Matrix took sci-fi and kung fu, meshed them together, you know, and pretty much any major franchise you can think of did this in some way. Like, was able to take two things you wouldn't think would belong together. They put them together, put a relatable protagonist in. I haven't done this myself, so maybe it is more complicated than that, but I'm just telling you what I've noticed as a pattern in these big tentpole franchises is we want something different, right? We want something extraordinary and weird, but it has to be grounded in something realistic, something that we know. So again, to go back to A New Hope we think of as like, oh, and you know, technically, and the cameras and the shots and the space and the space battle. But the actual cinematography of it is very elementary. The tripod is always bolted down. It is always like George Lucas, wide, you know, get wide, get close, get weird if there's time. Because we needed that basic sensibility to relate to this weird stuff that was going on.
No, you need an anchor point that people can go like, I like that. Now what else you got?
Exactly.
You know, and I totally get that.
Whereas in that movie, if the camera would have been moving too much, it would have been too much for people to absorb at the time.
But there's so many franchises that people like don't even bother rolling dice on. Look, John Wick was a sleeper, right?
Yeah,
no one
absolutely.
knew. I remember when it came out during Comic-Con, it came out, no one talked about it. By Saturday, everybody's talking about, did you see that? Did you see it? I'm like, nah.
Well, again, we know about like assassins and action
Right.
movies, but then there's this whole secret society component we don't know, and then they killed his dog. So it fits that three, you know. And as with ScreenCrush videos, I always try to do a thing where I try to say it's got to be familiar, new, and urgent.
Oh, that's
or
good.
you know, or fun, or new, or fun for sure, right? So your thumbnail should have that. It should have, I know that thing, but what's that thing? I got to click on that now.
No, your thumbnails are all like, as soon as I see yellow type and like something in a circle, I'm like, new one. So I'm like, I gotta go watch this thing.
Yeah.
But there's things I always wish you guys would cover. Like every now and then there's like a weird horror film I see that I'm like, this would be cool if I get a deep dive on
and
this.
Colton and Brianna were always like, we're trying on that kind of thing. We did get a Sinners video out. Some of those we want to get just a video out, like an ending explained, but then when it comes on streaming, have like the really in-depth
the
version.
resurgence thing.
But we never, just like, Sinners is going to be on streaming. Oh, and actually not that soon because it was such a big box office hit. But like Nosferatu was on streaming a couple weeks after, and we totally could have done a 30, 40-minute video on that.
Oh, that was Also, that was something that was like redone like 40 times, like Nosferatu in so many different
Sure.
forms.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you could
yeah.
have gone through a whole history of what they've done with this whole
even into parody with like Shadow of the Vampire.
of Dark
Yeah.
Shadows, all well, not Dark Shadows, but you know what? I wanted to ask you this. I'm probably gotten the name wrong. You know what I thought would have been bigger was, do you remember Dark City? The one,
Yeah, of course.
I thought that would have been
the
huge.
movie from '98. That was
Yeah,
like,
and the city was just pieces of other city like jammed
Yeah, it was
together.
great movie. Yeah.
What do you think something like that could come out today, or do you think that you need the fans of the original to be behind something
You
that
mean
comes
like a
out
remake of Dark City, or just
Yeah,
re-release
just
it?
start it over, bring it out now. Because
Dark City would make a great series, I think. Like that's a story that I think you, as a mystery, you could constantly tease out, you know, what the city is, but then you have to, at the end of the season, reveal that it's actually part of a much bigger mystery.
That's good.
I think that would, because that's what really sold that movie. And that was part of like this 98, 99. There were a lot of not just twist endings, but these whole like films that were about like there's something you're missing out on. There's something in your everyday life you're not seeing. Office Space, Fight Club, American Beauty, they all got the 13th Floor, they all, The Matrix, they all had that kind of like, you know, you think that your life is real, but none of this is real. There's actually a deeper emotional truth that you should be seeking.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's what Dark City's about.
Well, what's cool about Dark City was it was another one that was practical.
Mm-hmm.
It was high concept. You were getting thrown all this lore at one shot, and you're trying to figure it out. The weird guys with the white and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was great.
And they actually they spent so much money making those sets, they had to use them again somehow, so they end up in the Matrix.
It's a really two similar movies, so I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah, and
it just maybe the Matrix, just because it was more action based and it was more it was less challenging for people than Dark City. It's also a better movie. I mean, The Matrix is a better movie than Dark City, but I love Dark City.
But so when John Wick 2 came out, right? I started thinking about Dark City, and the reason I started thinking about it was in Dark City, you got thrown all this lore at the start, and it was kind of inundating. John Wick franchise, if you watch that, they're force feeding you lore they're making up on the fly.
Yeah.
And it really drove
So
me
did
nuts.
Star Wars.
Yeah, well, but they worked in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And John Wick, I'd argue, like, no.
They got too, I think they got too invested. The one who sits above the table and stuff like that.
Like chopping up the
way,
finger thing.
way, like for me, everything, it's like the shark in Jaws. It's just the more vague it is, the better.
Yes.
And to take it back to Star Wars, whenever you talk about the Force, you know, when Obi-Wan explains the Force, he's like, it's this energy field.
No, it's metachlorians, bro.
No, it's midichlorians.
It's metachlorians,
but not
bro.
even just that. But like you watch the Clone Wars, and it's like, no, there's these Force beings and this mother and daughter, and then in like Ahsoka, they're doubling down on that stuff. And I'm like, just keep it vague, because that way it can appeal regardless of what you believe. It can appeal to you in some way. It takes Eastern and Western philosophies and language and dogma and it mixes them into one thing that should feel universal.
Well, some of the most successful media or whatever we ingest is you let the audience be a participant. If you give them
always.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So that's what that is. The vague is you're filling in the gap. That's your participation.
Yep.
That's why, like before, when I said it's like insulting when they overly spell something out. I'm not stupid.
Right.
I get what you're going for, but let me have my connection to it somewhere. And I think that we're at a place where we're having audiences that they don't trust. They don't trust the audience. Just come up with their own, like, I like this.
That's a good comment right there. More vague is better is the exact thing with Predator and the Xenomorph as well. Alien Covenant ruined it. Yeah, I think that the less you know, the better. Is usually, especially with monsters, as soon as you start to spell it out, it's easier to understand. Whereas like a movie monster, especially like in Alien or Aliens, right? There's this whole thing with water and the subconscious and the monster rising up.
Yeah.
It's more relatable. That's not Ripley's monster. That's my monster. And Ripley is me fighting that monster that I can relate to in my own way, you know, especially in horror, but also like any villain, any hero ever goes to that.
Predator is one of my favorite creatures of all time. And I love the lore of how it came together. Like it was basically redone on the fly and they came up with this amazing, you know, Stan Winston redid the whole thing and all that stuff.
Yeah, because it was originally Jean-Claude Van Damme in a green screen suit, right? Or a lizard
horrible.
costume. Yeah, it was
He
awful.
looked like a praying mantis.
Yeah.
It was like whatever, but now it's like so iconic. But I do appreciate when they give you a little bit of breadcrumbs, like, oh, the skull's in the wall. Oh, they came across those other species.
Yeah, but that's all you need. You know, you don't have to have like this whole, anytime you explore it too much, it's just not cool anymore.
No.
You know, like you want to be the cool, aloof guy at the party who doesn't tell everything about himself, because we always have to add that piece ourselves. You want to, anytime you tell a story, you want to give the audience just enough to feel like we're a part of it. You know, the smiley face metaphor. So, Scott McCloud in this book called Understanding Comics wrote this great metaphor. I use it all the time. He said, you know, if you see two lines and a dot, you go, what is that? That's a face, right? Because all you are aware of on your face are the parts that connect to the outside world, your eyes, your nose, your mouth. So if you see a car, a front of a car, you go, all two headlights and a grill, that's like a mouth. But as you start to add more detail to it, it's less like your face and it's more like a different face or someone else's face.
Right.
So for instance, in animation, the more simplistic the character, the more likely they are to be the hero. The more detailed they are, the more likely they're the villain or some otherworldly object or mentor figure who we're not meant to relate to.
That's wild. And that makes total sense. Because if you start pinpointing and narrowing down who you would relate it to be, then you can miss most of the audience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Jeez, man. And see, these are the things I appreciate about your channel. Is like there's other things than just like, well, in this one issue of Superman, it's like, no, you bring it to something else that's like some other like Moore's law of whatever. And I'm like, God damn, this guy's killing it. And he does it in like 2 minutes after something's out, which blows my mind out.
That's just riffing, baby.
Nah,
that's just riffing.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, that's just making it up as I go.
You guys don't go live a lot though, huh?
We have a couple, like 2 or 3 times. It's fun. I like taking the questions.
Do you guys have any questions while we're live?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here.
You know, so I know that we're on like a delay because we stream in high res, but if you guys have any questions, that's what we're live.
Is that why? Okay. Yeah. Oh, there's The Thing. Yeah, somebody said like The Thing, we still know basically nothing about the alien, but it's still a legit classic. Exactly. And as soon as they reveal more about The Thing, then it becomes less interesting.
Well, you know what happens is after 30 years, so like we need to cash in on this. What are the things they want to know? Well, let's go make a movie that tells them things they want to know. Then the guys below nerd level go, I know things, and they regurgitate these facts to be part of the conversation, and that's how it grows an audience.
I think if you're going to do The Thing again, just you could change the setting, change the people. Okay. Here's something I've been thinking for a while. Ted Lasso, right? You see Ted Lasso?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so his first 3 seasons, he's a men's soccer team in England. It's a fish out of water story, hilarious. It's got all these themes about masculinity and therapy and all this stuff, right?
It's warm. It's very warm.
It's a very warm show. It's anyways, the season 4 is going to be about him coaching a women's soccer team. And I think that is an enormous mistake. He should not go back to doing a soccer team. They should just take Ted Lasso. He's like Mary Poppins, right? Ted Lasso goes to some other house and he helps someone else out. But in this case, it's not a sport. Don't do a sport. Take him into a post office where nobody gets along. Take him into a police department. Take him into a class, like a school that's run down. Make him like the principal and Lean on Me. You know, give him like, you could literally take that same formula and apply it to different settings and different people. But I think just by going back to athletics, and look, these guys like him, Bill Lawrence, they are great writers. Brett Goldstein, I'm sure they're going to come up with some great, hilarious stuff. Personally, I think he's Mary Poppins, and I'd like to see that character injected into other environments, which is why I thought Prey worked so well as opposed to like other Predator versus Alien stuff, because it's, again, taking the same concept, different location, different protagonist, and giving us a different story, but using the same threat.
Oh no, seeing it from a different vantage point, the story is a different vantage point is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and especially that Predator had different methods than the older Predator.
Yeah, it's cool. It built on it.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a cowardly Predator. I mean, it kept on going into freaking cloaking. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, but again, we think we know that premise, but then it's adding new things to the lore. Which, again, the best Star Wars does the same thing too.
The Ted Lasso thing's interesting, but I think people would get fatigue from it.
So Randolph Nombrado, one of our all-time great editors, has just said, ScreenCrush editor here, need some time coach for this video when you get back, Ryan. I'm really sorry, man. I'll do my best. Right now they're cutting a missed Andor Easter eggs that we missed.
Of course they are.
And I did not put time codes in yet. I'm really sorry. I'll do that in a couple hours.
This is what you deal with. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Actually, would you mind if I just
go do it? That'd be amazing.
Imagine I was doing that live.
Well, honestly, that's how everything works with that. You guys, I don't think people realize that these things don't magically just pop up on your feed. Like, what goes into a channel? I mean, look, we've been doing this channel for almost 15 years now. 1.5 million. You're at 1.7 million.
I think we just crossed it. Yeah.
That's congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
That's unbelievable. I don't know.
160,000 when I started.
And I don't know when I plugged into yours. Like, I was before WandaVision. I don't know what number you were at, but I was like, I'm so glad this channel is growing, because the more it grows, the more you can pay attention to it, the more resources go to it, the more I get out of said channel. So support the channels you are a fan of. Buying a t-shirt goes a long way.
It really does.
It's not just the money. Like, someone recognizes it and you go, hey, you like ScreenCrush. And then that grows a fan base. You're a part of that, you know? So I try to buy something from every channel I'm psyched on personally.
Randolph's getting some thank yous, and I'm getting asked my top 10 favorite. I can't do a top 10 off the top of my head. I will say my favorite movie's Network, which a lot of people wouldn't expect me to say. But I love that movie. And then, yeah, Randolph's getting some thanks. And yeah, that's nice. Thank you. Thank you.
So do you have any in-person dates coming or?
So yeah, we just finished a live show tour, and the live show was hilarious because we did the first one in New York in 2024.
Yeah, I missed that one.
It was cool. We had a great time, but it was for me more of like, we didn't know what it was. Like, what are we expected to do? And we sold out here in New York, and it was fun. Colton did a thing. I did a presentation. We had a big Q&A. And then we started the tour, and we didn't really know what the hell it was at the front of it, and then after about 3 shows, I worked out this whole premise where Paul from Heavy Spoilers sends us to different cities, and we're trying to get back, and there's like this narrative, and we took different aspects of ScreenCrush videos and we reinterpreted them for the stage. It was really fun by the end. It was puppets and dream sequences, and James Gunn was there, and you were there, and you were there. But then we didn't get to do it in New York, so we're going to do one more show in New York this year. I haven't set a date yet. Probably I guess it can't be August now, maybe September, October. So we will do one more show there, and maybe we'll do little things. Maybe we'll come in here and we'll do something here, like a little.
I would love that.
Yeah.
And you're welcome if you want to do anything where you want to teach
if
class
if
or
the
whatever.
crowd could be quiet, that'd be great. Like you guys just simmer down.
I
didn't tell anybody. I didn't. Oh shit! I didn't tell. Ma'am, I didn't tell anybody. No, I'm joking. Like we didn't expect.
No, we don't push this for in-room crowds because we're gonna look at the back of our heads. So
I don't like being around people. I brush the peasants off when they say hello. Which if you've ever seen me in public, isn't true at all.
Your best bet is probably to do something around Comic-Con time.
Yeah, we might do that too. I mean, October we could find something because people are already in the city. We did do a kind of a ScreenCrush Unplugged show at a con in Jersey recently where anything that could go wrong did go wrong. But we still had a good time because it was basically, I ended up like with no microphone, no screen. It was just me talking to people like this, and it was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we get a lot of like film students in here, and it'd probably be good just hear your insight or some of your, do a panel of that you can moderate of like people that are screenwriters or doing something like that. Like, I think everything's a resource if you plug into it. So you got to support it, which is why I think I look at your channel as more of a resource than entertainment.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I get
the best video essay channels are that. I mean, you have like Lessons from a Screenplay or Every Frame of Painting. Like there are some channels out there that aren't doing a video a day that are able to just really make some great stuff, man. Like, and then there's channels that I just love for their opinions, like Captain Midnight is a great one. To do this job, I just watched a lot of other channels. Like I really did. And I'm not kidding. Like, cause you don't know the form, you have your own thoughts, but then you watch other people and they make you better. And, you kind of build on what they do.
Yeah, well, how did you become the guy at ScreenCrush? What was this?
So I work for a company called Town Square Media that owns a lot of other stuff like, Loudwire, XXL. So I was a video editor, right? But then I also was editing videos for ScreenCrush and had ideas, and Matt Singer, the editor-in-chief, was like, hey, what do you want to write for us? And then that turned into me eventually hosting because it was faster and easier. And then it just evolved. Like it's like anything else, you find what works, what doesn't work, and you were in front of the camera, you loosen up after a while. Really just trial and error.
Yeah, the ScreenCrush, the name right there, I thought was a really good pull.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like someone goes like, oh, this seems like a BuzzFeed, like those kind of things. Like it took 2 things and just kind of smash them.
Sure. And that's older. I mean, that's like, cause the same company owns a brand called Pop Crush. So that was like from 2012. I think they started the website, and then the YouTube channel wasn't far after, but they used to just post like trailers and stuff like that. Right.
No, and then I think once the gimmick of the VHS of the Blockbuster was dope, and then I thought I was going to see Doug today personally. I was like,
he doesn't handle crowds well. I've tried. He was at a couple of the live shows. Only at the very end he comes out.
Oh, he shakes.
He really is. Yeah. He doesn't. Yeah, he shakes around people. I brought him to this con, right? And we had a booth, and the guy who voiced Morph in the original X-Men show came over to say hi, and Doug snapped at him. So embarrassed. But because he was overstimulated. You know what I mean? There was too many people around.
I don't think anyone can blame a little dog for feeling threatened.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that.
He's just a little guy.
Is there anything coming out going forward that you're really psyched on?
Oh, yeah, man. Let's see what is still coming out this year. Superman and Fantastic Four. I know that's like,
I'm cautious about Fantastic Four.
I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I love Matt Shackman. I think it's going to be fantastic. And then later in the year, we got Peacemaker season 2. That's going to be sick.
You liked season 1?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't a fan.
The only thing I didn't like about Peacemaker season 1, and James Gunn does this way too much, I hate when there's constant yelling. I can't stand that. Like for me, it's just not like good writing. but he does put these like bombastic people together who would yell. But I also didn't like it in like Malcolm in the Middle, where I thought, especially as the kids got older and they yelled too much, it was a big turnoff for me. But the new Avatar, like Avatar stuff's always good. That's coming out this year.
We'll see. I wasn't a big fan of Peacemaker. I guess something happens where it gets like too jokey for me, and I'm like, I unplug a little bit.
Yeah, that happens a lot in comic book stuff now too, though. It's
well,
like
because it was from Marvel, and
they felt like. But see, that's one thing that made Iron Man work, because we had all these comic book movies that really took themselves seriously, like the X-Men movies, and then Robert Downey Jr. comes along as this person who, frankly, everybody wanted to be. Playboy, rich, gets the girl, and he's kind of undermining the superhero thing as he's doing it, because he's cracking wise, stuff like that. So it was a perfect gateway for the civilians to come into a superhero world and kind of relate to that universe, which is why all those movies do it, like at least in the initially. And as soon as they start to take themselves a little bit too seriously, you can see people check out a little bit.
I remember going to Blade in the theater.
So good.
And that blood shower scene in the beginning,
yeah,
it was all I needed. I was like, I'm all in. What I would have loved, I know it can't happen, but I would have loved that at the end of Endgame with that giant war, Blade just showed up. And just give the fan service. Just give it all, man.
I mean, we did get him in Deadpool and Wolverine, but that movie was basically just full fan service.
Yeah, that one almost felt like a skit. Even like the way it was shot just didn't feel special. There was just something like flat about it. The lighting was just like daylight, yay! And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big Deadpool and Wolverine fan.
Really?
No, because like those first two movies I thought weren't great just because of like Ryan Reynolds being hilarious. They were great because he had a really relatable motivation. The first movie, he's trying to get healed so he can be back with his girl. Finds out he didn't need to do that. She loves him anyway. Second movie, his girl dies. He's trying to figure out his place in the universe and get her back. And for all the times he doesn't take life seriously, man, those cutaway scenes where he's talking to Vanessa in the afterlife, if you've ever lost someone in your life, they hit you at a real place. Plus they have that like acoustic cover of Take On Me that always gets me. And the third movie, I was like, wait, why is he trying to join the Avengers? Apart from trying to join this, it was too meta.
Oh no, it was a forced.
It was
script.
extremely forced. And I was like, I read somewhere that Ryan Reynolds had, like, he pitched Marvel like over a dozen ideas. And I'm like, so you just went with the one that got you in the room with Hugh Jackman the fastest? And I don't know. I wasn't too, it was fun, don't get me wrong, but watching two invincible people cut each other up when it's just like watching Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny do it. Like there's no weight or consequence to their fights.
Yeah, but we needed to at least see it once. Like you had, and to do it inside of a minivan was dope. I thought it was.
Yeah, but it wasn't just once. That if they did it earlier too, and and they kept doing it.
We had to see it at some point. I just wish it wasn't that movie. I wish it was Deadpool 3 and you didn't put the marketing around that they're together. Let him show up like Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder.
That was never going to happen.
Yeah, but that would have been sick.
I know. I agree.
Dude,
And there were other ideas for Deadpool. Like Nando V Movies did a great Deadpool 3, what he wanted it to be, which is like with Mojo and all this other stuff that would have been like a real send-off to the X-Men universe. When, we got that weird montage. Good. Ethan Levinsky, one of our editors, just told me Doug is watching the store right now. Thank goodness. And Malcolm in the Middle was a great show. And they just quoted a great line from it. Drink your milk. I can't. It's lumpy. Then chew it. Fantastic show, especially the first two seasons.
Bryan Cranston in the studio is crushing it right now. Are you watching that series?
I'm one episode behind. I only saw him in the first episode, though.
Oh.
So maybe I'm 2 episodes behind.
He's not Robert Blake. What's the guy's name? The producer who he's emulating. Robert. Hey, what's up, Keith?
Hey, Keith.
I don't know who he's emulating, to be honest with you.
Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter.
But he's unbelievable. Like, Bryan Cranston to be as hardcore serious in Breaking Bad, which is one of the best series of all time ever. I don't know if you like it or not, but
we've covered on the channel. Also, one of the funniest shows ever. That show is hilarious when it needs to be.
Yeah, but it's also, they let them do what they wanted, and they had faith in it. It had a low view count, and they still let it go for the extra seasons, and they didn't overshoot it.
Low budget.
Yeah,
and that's why those initial seasons, they really didn't have that many locations. And Cranston was probably the most expensive person in the cast.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody else was an unknown. And even then, he was so gung-ho to do it. I wouldn't surprise me if he was on a pay cut for that first season.
Hey, who knows what goes on? We just found out Eva Longoria got John Wick over the goal line.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, that was the whole thing, is that she silently said, like, no, this is a good script.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, she gave like $6 million.
Yeah, like George Harrison basically funded Monty Python's films,
Go look at Star Trek and Lucille Ball. You know what I mean?
Well, because that was her actual production company. It's not like she was a big believer. I'm sure she was a believer in Star Trek eventually, but They was just Desilu was trying to branch out from just I Love Lucy.
It's just cool, man.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad made my heart race. That's kind of the point. But I also loved on a technical level how it was shot, the time lapses they did.
Oh yeah,
the film stocks that they used to film
the meth montages and how they put those together. As an editor, that was so much fun to watch and kind of go back and try to recreate with your own work.
If you ever wanted meth to look beautiful,
they can do it. Yeah, they did it all the time. But yeah, it was. I mean, there were parts. You remember when Badger gets picked up for selling for dealing? And he's talking to the dude and he's like, dude, you're clearly a cop. There's a flower van over there and this van over there. And the guy talks him into it. And then when the cops do arrest him, those two vans do pull up and arrest him. Like, it's a funny show. Like, when they needed to be, they were hilarious.
It's the only thing you'll ever find a Pontiac Aztec to become infamous.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it's like, what are you kidding me? I love that show. In fact, I would even say as a creative, that probably re-energized me to get back into thinking a little deeper and shooting a little harder.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's something like that.
Mad Men's a show I always go back to. I think that's like the best show.
Yo,
like no one talks about Mad Men, right?
What?
Yeah.
Yo, the art design.
Even just the themes and what it's saying about America and like how we don't have a singular culture. We define ourselves through commercialism, and yeah, it's a great show and also hilarious.
God.
That show, man.
Yes.
Not Great Bob is one of my I will throw that gif out to anyone when they ask me how I'm doing, even if I'm having a good day. I will throw that out there.
Oh my God. Every time someone says, who do you think you're talking to? I see Don Draper's face.
Oh man. Well, you said something earlier. I was about to quote Don Draper. Then I started talking about Star Wars, where we were talking about imagination. And Don Draper has a great line in that show where he says, the greatest asset you have is your viewer's imagination. If you get in that space, your ad can run all day. And it's when he's pitching the Heinz ad with no ketchup on it.
The fact that you can pull that. I love that.
Oh, I've seen that show like probably more times than I've seen Breaking Bad.
I love how it opened up with the whole crisis of the Surgeon General putting a warning onto cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like that was a major thing for these guys that were like owning the world at that time.
Yeah.
And I was watching it in between The Wire. So my brain was like ping-ponging back and forth.
Two interesting commentaries on American life right there.
Yeah.
Because the opening monologue of The Wire is also about, like, he's like, they're talking about that guy Snot who got shot. And he said, why'd you keep letting him steal from the game? And he's like, got him, man. This is America. You got to let him.
The best was when they go to the movies and the dealers see the cops at the movies. It's like
it's so
they were after hours and they're like, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
It was like Looney Tunes, the sheepdog and the roadrunner and the coyote checking out and seeing each other when they go. I love that scene. Like, we see you guys in the corner all the time.
It's just
see you later.
It's
brilliant scene, man.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen The Wire, which honestly, it's when you watch it, it's kind of like, it's all flip phones and dated. But like,
let's talk about all the characters in The Wire that die. So we just immediately spoil
all anybody knows is Omar. Like that's like the character is Omar.
Omar, as Barack Obama said, it was his favorite character of all time.
When he showed up in that actor showed up in Empire, Boardwalk Empire.
Oh my God, he's great. Yeah,
my God,
I'm going to rewatch that right now.
Really?
He's also in a great season of Community. I think it's season 5. I think. Yeah, he's a teacher. Or no, mate, I think it's 3 actually. That he's in. Yeah, he's the biology teacher when they have the whole like murder investigation with the plant where they do the Law and Order episode. He's great in that.
I thought he would have been awesome somewhere in the DC universe. Something.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Something. Yeah. It's just
and Bryan Cranston. I saw a rumor today on the X, if that's what we're calling it. That they're trying to shop Bryan Cranston as Professor X, and I'm like, please don't, because I don't know. I just think go young, go unknown. Not that young for Professor X, but like, I don't know. Like, just because he was bald in that one role, it's like, he should be Lex Luthor. Like, well, not necessarily. He can do a lot of stuff. I think he did say at one point he wanted to be Mr. Sinister, and I'd love to see him in that.
I'm not so convinced on the next Lex Luthor. I'm looking at the.
He's a great actor.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess I view Lex in a certain way that doesn't reflect to me. It's giving me Topher Gracie feel.
Did you like Jesse Eisenberg in the
so Jesse Eisenberg was a little too Ace Ventura for me.
Yeah. I always called him like early Daffy Duck.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
we get it. You're Zuckerberg. Like, I get it. Like it was a little too much for me. And I guess I just haven't seen like a real life Lex Luthor. That standing tall with that voice and all that.
Yeah. I mean, Clancy Brown's version of him in the animated series is like, really. That's the thing with DC. I'm like, they already did it. If you need the template, it exists. Like those animated shows, like the DC AU, Batman the Animated Series, all those, they did it. You know what I'm most excited for and all this stuff is Mike Flanagan's Clayface movie.
So that actually hit a wall, I think.
No, it
yeah,
did?
so they're not using that script, which is ironic because the reason they went forward with it was because there was a script.
Why not?
James Gunn pulled that because there was a script ready to go from Flanagan, and they're not doing it. Yeah, that was the big thing.
Oh, that's too bad.
Ryan, you got to get
I'm not
the speed,
excited
man.
about it
Look
anymore.
at this.
Yeah, it's too bad.
This is my news guy. No, I Clayface is. I also love when they explore weird villains that we don't get a chance, that aren't like C-list, that could be interesting.
Yeah, like the condiment kink. Exactly. Yeah, that beast.
Well, I was super excited for Daredevil until they give me like 5 minutes of Muse. Muse could have been
They really
could have been natural born killers, Carnage level lunacy.
Yeah.
And I even thought, like, how are they going to
God.
do this? It's going to be so bloody.
That season was so weird because you could really tell this is when the old scripts kicked in and this is when the new scripts
It was
kicked
ups
in.
and downs. Like,
Yeah,
this
so
right?
we'll see. You know, my favorite episode of the season was probably the standalone bank heist.
The bank
episode.
heist.
I love
knew you were
that.
gonna say that.
That's great. And the same bank where they shot Inside Man, which I missed in the Easter egg video, and it still kills me.
I'm with you. Calendar Man needs some kind of day, I think, personally. And I think if you did a modern version in a very methodical way, I like kind of how they did Riddler. I bought that Riddler, you know.
Oh, he was great.
I'm super amped for what's coming for Joker after that deleted scene. I think that's gonna be such a killer Joker, you know, when with the scarred face and he's talking slower and he's not just like a clown in a suit. Very psyched for that. I was not happy with Joker 2, obviously, but yeah, we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole.
You mean Leto?
No, Joker 2.
Oh, Joker 2.
Folly,
The Joker 2.
I was just not in.
I was like the person who liked it. I really did. I thought that was the ballsiest movie I'd ever seen. And this is exactly where like I'm going to get in fights with people because who has the guts to come into a movie like that and tell their fans, you suck. You should be ashamed of yourself. And here's 100 million reasons why.
Matthews Studio Equipment. So these are the guys that provide all the grip for everything you're talking about, basically. Matthews.
And you should watch Daredevil Born Again. Oh, it's Moses who's saying that. But yeah, this is a great setup. Thank you, Matthews Studio Equipment.
No, I mean, they created the C-stand. They created. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Okay.
So
Yeah. Thank you for that too.
Yeah. Well, he actually corrected me about a Tombstone line. It's not I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah, I'm your Huckleberry, like the coffin.
Yeah,
the
I didn't
edge
know
of it.
that, so
but
you-
it sounds like Huckleberry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know, even the GIFs say Huckleberry. You
Yeah.
can't even find one that says it properly. So
No.
you're like, you never want to send that to anybody.
Yeah, it's just cooler that way. No one knows what a Huckleberry is. That movie too. God, man, Val Kilmer should have gotten an Oscar nomination. for
Yo.
that. But you know, the studio buried it. They wouldn't show it to critics. You know, and usually when a studio wouldn't show things to critics, it's because they had no faith in it. But the behind the scenes of that movie is crazy because the dude who originally wrote and was going to direct it, he wrote the script that was way too long. He was a first-time director, and production was a mess. He was taking too long on these different takes, so they fired him. And then to salvage the production, Kurt Russell was like, "Well, I'll direct it," but because of guild rules, he couldn't take credit for directing it. So they hired George Cosmatos. I can't remember how you say his last name. He came in and basically was a paper tiger. And then, you know, still did it, but like Kurt Russell was directing the movie. And I don't know if like the director on paper died. So I don't know if Kurt Russell's actually come out and admitted this yet, or even where I read it. I hope I'm not wrong, but this is what I've, read over the years about it. Good, fantastic movie.
Val Kilmer was incredible. Did you see Val, the documentary?
Not yet. No.
Wow.
I got to see that Pee Wee Herman one too. I hear that's
I saw
great.
that. Yeah, that was great. And how entertaining he is as just a human. Like
Yeah.
the way he talks straight up, you're just kind of like, man, where was this guy?
I met him once backstage. I had a friend who made puppets for his Broadway show.
Oh.
So we were backstage looking at the stage and stuff. And then he was in Pee Wee gear. So I don't think I met Paul Rubens. I met Pee Wee Herman.
That's the thing, is like his whole thing was like, I'm going to give you this. But I wonder what he would have been.
If he hadn't hit that. Well, his writing partner was Phil Hartman. So there's a universe where
falling
maybe
out,
he
though.
didn't, they did, but maybe there's a universe where he didn't break his Pee Wee on these late night shows and on HBO, and he kind of went in a different track with him. You know what I mean? Because Phil Hartman co-wrote Pee Wee's Big Adventure with him.
That was when he got the Sign It Live gig. That was the end of days. Like that was just crazy. But when you watch that 2-part documentary or whatever, it's just wild because there's this whole heaviness about his death.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like as if he knew he better do this. It's his last shot, and you're getting that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's heavy, and I love documentaries, man. But if you get a chance, watch Val.
And the Steve Martin one's good too.
I didn't see the Steve.
Oh, it goes on Apple Plus.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
That's really good. 2-parter.
The last thing I'm going to ask you is we're kind of running over.
Okay.
I'm wondering, do you think there's a world, or that we should just reset something like Star Wars, which is like redo it, reboot it, tell it a different way. You give me the characters I want. And I know Han Solo this, whatever that, but we get like the new cast, almost like what they did with X-Men maybe or something like that. Like, this is our new Han Solo. This is our new
Yeah, I think you can 100% recast anyone. You can recast Black Panther, you can recast Iron Man, you can recast Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
Just don't do it and retell the story against the Empire, right? If you're going to do that, either change mediums, change media, do it in animation, do it in comics. The Star Wars comics did a great job of filling in the gaps between movies, and I would love to see those stories told with new actors in live action or 5 years after. The idea that we have to CGI, deep fake, rubber face all these people is silly.
Weird, right?
Don't do it. Don't do it. No, I 100% think. And if you want to do more Star Wars stories that aren't tied to this current continuity, do what James Mangold's doing. Set it at 10,000 years in the past, 1,000 years in the future. Do what Star Wars Visions is doing. They've done some great stories that aren't connected to continuity that are just Star Wars-ish. You know, the great thing about that universe is it takes something familiar and new, and it's at a galaxy far, far away and a long time ago, so it doesn't have to be connected to anything around us. So,
having said that, you think they could have recasted Black Panther?
of course. I look at these characters not as the actors who play them, but as the characters, right?
Yeah.
Who, no matter what, if Chadwick Boseman hadn't passed away, they would have eventually recast him, right? He would have gone on to other stuff, and they want to keep that character going.
But this was in the middle of the heat of the
It
momentum
sucks.
of the character.
It sucks. And again, I'm saying this from a very neutral comic book fan perspective. For Ryan Coogler and everybody there, it was too raw, too immediate, too personal to recast him, which I totally get that aspect. But eventually, there will be a different person playing T'Challa in these movies.
No, absolutely.
And there should be, because the character is bigger than this one guy.
Right.
What he means to people is bigger than one guy.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that people are attached to an adaptation, not the character. So that's Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, and whatever's going to happen with Dr. Doom, which I know you're like all
Colton Ogburn had a great suggestion. Kieran Culkin.
Oh, wow.
Be a great Tony Stark.
I see him all the time around here. It's really
Colton, he's always
no,
Kieran Culkin?
Kieran Culkin.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I think it's like one of those things that people just get offended too easily over things that don't really matter, that they feel are theirs, but it's like, no, they just sold you something.
But that's what makes these stories. That's why they're resonating, because we feel personal attachment to them.
Sorry. Cool, man. Well, we're at the hour, man. I can't.
All right, there it is.
Doing it. Listen, guys, do yourselves a favor. Check out ScreenCrush. If you are not watching ScreenCrush after your favorite movies and shows, you're not getting the most out of your shows. I promise you that. It's almost like a heightened. You're getting a superpower just watching this Cliff Notes after the fact. You're going to get a lot more out of it. And then you're going to rewatch and go, it's so much better. So do yourself a favor, check out ScreenCrush, Ryan Arey's social over here. And I'm going to ask you guys to do a super personal favor for me. I'm going to block both of our faces with this QR code. That's not the new. It's the events channel that you're probably not subscribed to. All the demos out of this space are streamed to that channel. Do me a favor, scan that QR code, hit subscribe. We got a lot of cool things coming up this month. Ryan, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to Gotham Coffee Roasters. This has been delicious.
No, I appreciate
Had a great
it.
time. Thanks, Seth.
Go check out the live shows, go buy a shirt, and hopefully we can get you in here and do something.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Somewhere, whatever. Guys, I will see you on the next one. Is Chris Buck, legendary portrait photographer. And that's episode 50,406. So thank you guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll see you on the next one. Later, guys.